Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Our head coach of our local football program, Bronco Mendenhall.
The details themselves with the right preparation can separate you from mediocre competitors that don't do that. And so, yeah, the attention to detail, I think, drives the execution, or should I say brings the execution to life, especially in critical moments.
Triple hey. Thank you, Robin Thicke. My name's Ryan Tamori. This is the Pit Press Live. Busy show for you today. Hey, we appreciate everybody watching the live stream of Arizona and UNM today off college football, EA College Football 25, NCAA anymore. And yes, to answer your question, Eric, yes, I think our connection's a little laggy tonight, so I'm giving our viewers a heads up there. Busy show for you, if you can hear us. 8:30, Ben Wysong, former UNM Lobo back linebacker. He'll join us. He's going to break down the game. Of course, he's the uncle of Evan and Luke Wysong. We're happy to have him on. 9 o'clock from the Las Cruces Sun News. Happy to have this gentleman on. Nick Coppola, he joined us last week. He's going to help us break down SEMO, which is one of the best acronyms, best in all of college sport. God, I sound like a former president. It's one of the best. SEMO and New Mexico State, they will play Saturday. The game's at 7 o'clock on ESPN Ocho. It's ESPN Plus. Looking forward to talking to him. And then 2 former unnamed basketball players from the butt stuff and the gun stuff have filed a lawsuit against New Mexico State. So we'll get his opinion on that and the facts that he knows. That was a big story that he wrote with one of the I think news desk reporters down at the Las Cruces Sun News. A little bit of house cleaning before I get to the usual suspects and the gang. We appreciate affordable service plumbing, heating, plumbing, and air conditioning for your HVAC needs in the Albuquerque and Rio Rancho area. Affordable Service has been in business in New Mexico since 1986 and is still locally owned. Providing that during that time, they've served more than 40,000 customers, providing complete residential and light commercial HVAC services, including heating and cooling, electrical, as well as plumbing. Affordable Service takes pride in their staff and their commitment to the Albuquerque Rio Rancho community. And Hydro Bar, they are having a signing on Saturday. It's Steve Mean Machine Garcia. Don't miss your chance to meet Albuquerque's own at Hydro Bar. Garcia is on a 4-fight winning streak. Join Hydro Bar for an exclusive autograph signing and raffle. This is an event no true UFC fan in the community can afford to miss. Be a part of the excitement and support one of New Mexico's rising stars. Hydro Bar is at 7400 Montgomery Boulevard Northeast in Albuquerque, 87109 Suite 19. We appreciate Tim Baca Sr. and Tim Baca Jr. And to the usual suspects. As always, I'm joined by pleasure tonight to be joined by my business partner, Eric Malton. How you doing tonight, man?
Hey, what's up, Ryan? I'm good, man. I'm pumped. College football's back. A lot of good games on tonight. Obviously, the Colorado game, but there's 2 upsets brewing. 2 FCS programs are looking to upset 2 top 25 teams tonight. So it's been exciting, man. But happy to jump back on.
And he is a 2-time offensive state lineman for San Juan Mendoza and the St. Pius Sartans. Played basketball for Damian Segura, and he's all the way from the Bay because it don't play. His name is Rick Thompson.
Richard.
Rick, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, man. Just wishing I could have wagered on this Colorado game because I was thinking to myself, I really like North Dakota State's chances, and here they are, neck and neck game. But I'm happy to be here and talk about some New Mexico sports. Thanks for having me.
Before I introduce Ed, there's the upset alarm. Western Carolina leads number 24 NC State 21-17 late in the third quarter, thanks to ESPN. He's a Lobo fan since 1970 and the voice of the Western New Mexico Mustangs. His name is Mr. Ed Nunez. Ed, how you doing tonight?
Doing great, Ryan. Good to be back on with you guys. Looking forward to talking about some Lobo football and some other things as well.
We started this the other night. I don't know. We haven't come up with a name for it. It's a rundown. It's a leadoff. It's your top stories. So very excited to get into that. I'll get some of the opinion on this. And this is just not local. This is national. Before Ben Wysong joins us at 8:30, then the Los Sun News will be joining us at 9 o'clock. I'm going to do something to help my. There we go. Turn off the Wi-Fi off my phone. Every little bit helps. I'll start here. Jeff Grammer, if you got a notification from him on Twitter tonight, he is going to provide you great college football coverage this year for hard-hitting anal. Just an FYI there, throwing that out. All right, and switching gears. Jalen Dominguez, that's like the again, the shooting and the and going to the jet skiing squirrel. Jalen Dominguez has been announced the acting deputy athletic director. He was president of the Lobo Club. I lost my notes on this. I apologize. I had it written out. He is taking over that position for Dave Williams, who was named interim athletic director. Last Monday or Tuesday? Because Eddie Nunez took the athletic director job at the University of Houston. Eric, I'm going to start with you. You know Jalen. You've been in contact with him. Dave Williams, by the way, told Ed and I that he'd come on the show, so hopefully next week we'll have an interview with Dave Williams. But Eric, your thoughts on Jalen Dominguez being named acting deputy athletic director? This is not me being sarcastic or giving you and Emma a hard time. Acting deputy athletic director. I don't know what that means, but I'll throw it. Eric, you're more versed in that. I'll throw it your way.
Yeah, well, he's got a long list of experience and very credible. What's cool about him is he's a local New Mexican kid. I actually went to UNM's master's degree program in sport administration. And I think he might have graduated the year before I did, but he started working in college athletics kind of right after school. I think he spent some time with UNM, and then I think he briefly went to UCLA. I'm not sure what he did out there, but he's been the head guy, kind of leading the Lobo Club for a couple of years now, and just with the overall growth of the Lobo Club the last 2 years, exponential growth. And then he was just recently named the point person for that NIL strategy, the UNM athletic department NIL strategy appointment. I'm not sure what the title was, but that didn't last very long. And now he's acting deputy athletic director. So he's been around, he's got plenty of experience, and he's a bright young mind, and he's a local guy. So he knows the local market. He's probably got a lot of good, solid relationships with a lot of the big donors, and very respectable resume. So good luck to him. And I wouldn't doubt it if he ends up getting kind of the long-term deal here and maybe gets a bigger seat at the table, but great experience. And I think his resume speaks for itself.
Since I moved back, I've seen him at games, and I was wondering who he was and what he did, and I've only heard good things about him. And I'll just throw it to your way very quickly. I don't know if you know Jalen, just your thoughts very quickly.
Yeah, you know what? I think Eric's right. Anytime that somebody local gets a chance to move up, Dave Williams moves up to the interim athletic director, and Jalen Dominguez gets a chance to move up to the acting deputy athletic director. And Eric mentioned he's got a great resume. So, hey, good luck. I think it's always a good thing for advancement. And let's, you never know. I think Eric's right. It'd be a long-term deal for him. So congratulations.
And he's an Anderson grad. He graduated in 2011, I believe, when I was getting my master's.
I was going to ask you if you had any thoughts, Rick. I appreciate that. All right, moving along to our second story.
That cough
right
was
now,
on purpose.
this is the first of.
That was a purposeful cough. I wasn't.
No, I got the sarcasm. I don't know if anybody else.
No, I got it. I definitely got it.
Sorry, had to just let everyone know.
Yeah, we got it. Rick Thompson for. No. Rick Thompson for athletic director. Dollar Beer Night. Week 1, the True TV Max games have started on TNT Sports for San Jose State and Sacramento State. Sacramento State is an FCS team in the Big Sky. Watch out, San Jose State. That is on right now. I don't have a score update. I just wanted to update our viewership. So if you want to throw that on mute and listen to us, there you go. Moving on, man. The men's and women's track and field team at UNM, it just continued doing big things. They are. Oh, I did have this written out. Wow, I didn't change the headline. New Mexico men's and women's cross country. You would never know I worked in print and broadcast. New Mexico men and women's cross country were both voted number 1 in the Mountain West preseason poll. The league announced on Wednesday. That's the first time since 2015 that both Lobo squads enter the season as preseason favorites in the conference. This is heading into head coach Darren Gostin's second year, who replaced the legendary Joe Franklin last year. So, hey, I rarely say this on here. Congratulations to the UNM men and women's track and field and cross country teams, I believe. Moving along, Lobo Invitational for volleyball. UNM Volleyball kicks off their 2024 season this weekend when they host the Lobo Invitational at Johnson Center. It's the first time they have held this event since 2017, so way in the before during COVID. The Lobos will play Tulane at 9:30 a.m. tomorrow morning, and redundant tomorrow morning, and North Dakota at 6:30 p.m. tomorrow night at Johnson Center. They will play UC Irvine Saturday at 1 p.m. You can watch the UNM volleyball team on, as well as the other 3 neutral site matchups on the Mountain West Network or at golobos.com/watch or /watch. I never covered volleyball as a member of the Daily, when I worked for the Daily Lobo. However, Rick and I graduated and knew pretty well Jeannie Fairchild, who was an All-American for UNM volleyball. So that's our connection there with that. Moving along, and it's much like Super Bowl 2.0. We've kind of talked about it enough. UNM football heads to Tucson August 31st, 8:30 p.m. kickoff at Arizona Stadium. Arizona's 21st in the country. That game will be on ESPN, the Lobo Radio Network. Rob Portnoy, Dontrell Moore on the call. And if you didn't know, now you know, 31-point underdogs, 31.5-point underdogs. And that brings us to our question of the night. Does the UNM football team cover 31.5 points against Arizona on Saturday night? I'll get your guys' thoughts on that Saturday morning. That's thrown out to our listeners. Feel free to chime in on that. So again, Ja'Cory Krosky, when we simulated the game earlier today, you can go find that on our YouTube channel. It wasn't pretty. We'll talk about that Saturday morning. And a former Lobo, which I'm sure who you can guess torched UNM. Now to this. And I appreciate the Nashville Tennessean. And I was starting to read Aria Gerson's articles. Aria Gerson of the Nashville Tennessee has projected Pavia as the starter, but Vanderbilt football has not named a starting quarterback ahead of its opener against Virginia Tech, listing Diego Pavia or Nate Johnson atop of the Just chart released Tuesday. I appreciate Diego Pavia for what he did at New Mexico State. And if you hadn't heard him this week, he mentioned that his goal is to turn Vanderbilt around like he did New Mexico State. I think he's phenomenal. I just don't get, and I'll say it again, he posts a lot of things that are very religious and very Christian. I'm sure, what would Jesus do? He'd break into somebody else's house and urinate on their carpet. Rick, I wanted your thoughts on this. Again, I did love watching this team last year. They were a covering machine for me. I think you kind of brought this to my attention. He's went to St. Pius for a little bit. He transferred to Volcano Vista. UNM and Danny Gonzalez didn't like him. I think for reasons maybe UNM fans may or may not have noticed. But I just wanted your thoughts on this. I think this guy's a gamer. The on the Twitter sphere, X sphere, there were, sounds like it's porno, but there were on Twitter, there were video of him when he threw an interception against Auburn. He made a big tackle. My question has been, is this guy SEC ready full time? Not at a pretty mediocre Auburn team that was looking ahead to Alabama. Your thoughts, Rick?
Based on what I saw on social media, he was telling his mom on a phone call last night that he was named one of the captains, and I don't think you're not the starting quarterback unless you're named a captain. So I think he will get the start along, following Jerry Kill over there after the success they had last year. I believe he had over 20 touchdowns, but we also know he has a powerful runner. And I believe he started off, at the junior college there in New Mexico, NEMI, if I'm not mistaken. And to rise to this level, to be a starter in the SEC, it doesn't come by accident, right? So you got to tip your hat to the work he's done and what he's accomplished the past few years. They just have a tall task ahead at Vanderbilt, being probably at the bottom of that conference. And, we inherited their defensive coordinator, who was probably the worst in that conference. So just remember that when you're wondering why our defense looks a little strange this year. But on the good side, I think following Kill there will be some camaraderie in being named captain. Obviously, his teammates are liking him there. So I wish the best to him.
He did win a national championship at JUCO. Again, I can't take away from the kid from New Mexico Junior College who was starting quarterback, regardless if it's Vanderbilt at an SEC school. Props to him. And again, another connection. At least he went to Pius. Ed, I'll go to you, and then I'll go to Eric on this one. You still hate the Aggies, but you calls it as you see it. Your thoughts?
You know what? He's tough. He, along with Jerry Kill, they changed the culture there at New Mexico State. Running quarterback, tough, makes it tough yards, makes the plays that were needed last year for the Aggies. So I've got to give him a lot of credit. I think Rick's right. He's got a lot of a steep curve there to turn around that program. But that kid's a leader. He's a natural born leader. I give him credit. I didn't like the situation at the Lobo Field or the way Jerry Kill said he made him scrub toilets with toothbrushes. But whatever. Jerry Kill probably said, I'm glad you did that. Now, use that as a motivating factor. And it worked. They beat New Mexico. They got into the New Mexico Bowl. They got in 2 bowl games in successive seasons. And you mentioned, Rick, the success he had at New Mexico Military. That kid's a leader, man. That's the bottom line. Whether I like him or not, hey, I wish him well. He went to Pius, went to Volcano Vista, won a championship, a part of a championship team there at New Mexico Military. He's still from New Mexico, man, so I wish him well. I wish him good luck. And I think, like I said, he's got those intangible leadership factors that you can't coach. I think he'll do fine there. It's going to be tough for them, but I think he'll do fine. And I think he is the starter. I think Rick was right about that as well. You aren't named the captain to sit on the bench. So I'm pretty sure he's going to be the starter. So good luck to him.
Yeah, I thought he had been named the starter, and I misunderstood that. Just in case you're wondering, John Romero, Virginia Tech plays at Vanderbilt 10 a.m. Saturday morning. You can watch it on ESPN. That is the ESPN game. Eric, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that list is very long for local kids that grew up here, played football here, that can be considered a starting SEC quarterback. So his resume is very strong, right? National champion at Nimi, took New Mexico State to back-to-back bowl games, back-to-back winning seasons, transfers, and now he's being considered to be one of the starters. And I wouldn't doubt it if he gets named the starter, just because he's been there. He's been a winner. He knows how to win. He knows how to lead. Gritty kid. I think he made a really bad decision with how that all played out last year at UNM. But I mean, just being at that game last year when they did play UNM, you could just tell that guys rally around him, and he knows how to lead a pack. He knows how to win. He knows how to compete. And I'm really curious to see how his game style, his playing style really translate to the SEC level, because those guys are so much bigger and faster, and the game becomes so much faster and really hard to depict in the decision making, right? I think he's considered a running quarterback, but in the SEC, you got to be a little bit of both. So he seems to fit the build. He's just a little bit on the short side, but I'm kind of pulling for him, man. There's not many people, again, from New Mexico that can say that they were competed for an SEC program at that level. And Vanderbilt is one of those programs that's kind of towards the bottom tier of the SEC, but I know that they're pouring a bunch of money into that program. They're redeveloping a lot of their athletic departments. I know their football stadium's under construction, and they're trying to compete and remain relevant in the SEC. So wishing him kind of some good luck this year, and see how he shows out.
And Sacramento State is up 7-0 on San Jose State, who's Ken Niumatalolo, who came from Navy, replacing Brent Brennan. How did he not end up UNM? Sorry if you already covered that. Yeah, again, that was news for a long time there that Danny didn't like character. Danny mentioned it in a press conference. And I guess, yeah, he kind of rejected him. So there's that out there. Again, I think it's pretty cool he's gone there. I'm just very critical of the Christian stuff, and then your videotape taking a piss on, like, the hypocrisy does not sit well with me, but I'll let that go. Next, we wanted to hit on some national topics. Brandon Ayuk, his long contract dispute with the San Francisco 49ers came to an end Thursday when the star receiver agreed to a 4-year, $120 million contract extension to stay with the 49ers. Two people familiar with the deal told the Associated Press that the sides had agreed earlier on Thursday. This came after Ayuk missed his second straight practice despite being cleared by team doctors to participate. Ayuk will get $76 million in guarantees, according to one of the sources. San Francisco has one prominent holdout with all-pro left tackle Trent Williams. He is still staying away from the team as he seeks a new deal. I'm going to go. This was kind of the biggest news of the day. The Bay Area paying a lot of people today, and I'll go to Rick on this one. What's the reaction in the Bay Area?
Yeah, I saw something yesterday at practice. It looked like Shanahan and John Lynch were out there talking, and they just said, we got to pay Trent Williams and we got to pay Ayuk. We got to just move on with the season and get this thing done. So at that point in time, the offer was out there, and it sounds like Ayuk, had turned down some other offers that would have sent him elsewhere, possibly to Cleveland or Pittsburgh. But in the end, after all this holdout and walking around in street clothes, he's here to stay. And no one is happier than me, not because I'm a Niners fan, but because I drafted him in fantasy, knowing he would stay there all along. So people around here are going to be pumped. I think he's a good receiver. I don't know if he's worth that type of money. but he pairs well with the other weapons that the Niners have with McCaffrey, obviously, and Debo and Kittle. So I look for the Niners to make another run if they're not emotionally spent after, what they've gone through the last few seasons and losing in Super Bowls.
I thought he was really phenomenal for them last year. He was great. And I mean, they don't win the NFC title game if it weren't for him. Go ahead, Rick.
And I was at the NFC title game myself there up in the nosebleeds. And let me tell you, when he made that tip catch, that place exploded. People started crying in the stands. It was an unreal feeling, even for me, not being a Niners fan. So people are very happy here.
Moving on to one of my favorite topics and one of my favorite teams of all time. Dak Prescott says Jerry Jones' remarks don't hold weight. I'd say that the Dallas Cowboys have more controversies than playoff wins. With the 2024-25 NFL campaign set off to kick next week, it looks like increasingly like Dallas Cowboys and quarterback Dak Prescott won't reach an agreement on a contract extension before the season begins. This is according to Yahoo Sports and multiple other outlets. As a result, Prescott's contract status will loom over the Cowboys throughout the season. If Prescott doesn't play well or the team is disappointing, the question will be for Dallas and their fans everywhere, do they move on? Many will wonder if team owner and general manager Jerry Jones should have signed Dak Prescott to a bigger deal. Ed, I'll start with you on this one, and I'm going to go to John Machada of, I forgot who he's with. Quote, Dak Prescott, I stopped honestly listening to things Jerry Jones says to the media a long time ago. It doesn't really hold weight with me. Ed, I wanted your thoughts on that.
Well, you know what? He did that with Dak Prescott a couple years ago. He said he kind of let Dak bet on himself. Then he had to pay him a lot of money. Look, I understand, people hate the Cowboys. I get it. I've been a fan since 1970. I'm old. Now, I get it. The last 2 years have not turned out the way they wanted. Now, he's won 71 games as a starter. Are they going to go with Trey Lance as a starter or Cooper Rush? I don't think so. It depends on where they draft. Everyone's saying draft a quarterback. The free agent market next year isn't good. I thought they'd get a deal done by now. Ask Washington and Denver how it is to search for a quarterback. Washington might have theirs now. Bo Nix starting for Denver. We'll see how that works out. But I thought by now they would have had a deal done. I want them to get a deal done. I'd like to see Dak stay there. There's too many unknowns behind him. We know, again, Lance and Trey Lance and Cooper Rush are not starters. And I get people being disappointed and saying move on. You have to have a good quarterback in the National Football League. I think he's a good quarterback. I do. So where they've drafted traditionally, quarterbacks aren't available. That's a crapshoot too. So we'll see what happens. He gave. Here's another thing. They just gave CeeDee Lamb a big contract, and I find it hard to believe that they'd say, "Well, we're just going to have some guy unknown throw the football to CeeDee Lamb in the prime of his career." So Jerry Jones is saying he's not going to do it now. We'll see. But again, I'd be disappointed to see him walk unless there's a viable. I've said this before. If there's a viable replacement, plug him in. It's not Trey Lance. It's not Cooper Rush. So I'm hoping they sign Dak Prescott. But again, remember, first take every day that he's not signed. It's Dallas hate him or love him. They have the ratings. They're going to bring people watching to see if they hoping that they burned like they burned down the last couple of years, or having the false hope that I've had for the line and Eric too. So they have the ratings. They're going to people are going to pay attention one way or the other. So that's Jerry Jones' stance right now. We'll see. I don't see it changing, but maybe maybe before the season, there's still a week or so. Maybe something will get done.
Eric, you're also the resident Cowboy fan. The NC State Wolfpack has now taken the lead. They're up 31-21 over the Western Carolina Catamounts. Got to sound like Greg Gumbel doing that. What a great name. With 5:51 left. So there you go. They're taking the lead over Eric on Old Jera.
It's hard. It's really hard being a Cowboys fan, but I have to agree with a really good point that Ed made was in regards to the CeeDee Lamb deal. I don't think he signs that deal with any little bit of doubt, knowing who the quarterback's going to be, the Dallas Cowboys. And I have to agree with keeping Dak Prescott. He knows the system. I think there's a lot of intangibles there too, with just the type of guy he is around the locker room, how he represents the organization. I am very critical of the front office though, and the Jones family just being able to really prioritize winning versus just kind of selling tickets. And they love to be in the media. They love their, I mean, they could literally have nothing going on within the organization, but they'll still be the number one topic on First Take in the morning. And you could still find Stephen A. Smith trying to shit all over them. But it's really hard to see the Cowboys without Dak Prescott at quarterback. I know that they have someone with a really high ceiling in Trey Lance, but Trey Lance, I mean, his last preseason game, threw 5 interceptions. He does show flashes of being able to be more athletic, more elusive type quarterback, but him learning the brand new system, I don't think he's quite there yet, and I don't think he gives them a better chance of winning more than Dak does. But Dak's not the only player on the roster that's going to make this team go. I think there's still a lot of holes to fill. That offensive line is not as strong as it used to be. They're continuing to see some key pieces fall on the defensive side. And then you also have Micah Parsons' contract looming too. So at the end of the day, a lot of this is kind of in the control of the Joneses' hands. And I don't know how that they can even put together a competitive team with just the decisions that they continue or don't continue to make season in, season out. But end of the day, they're my team and I'll still root for them. But I don't know if my expectations are as high this year. I'm actually more excited about college football this season, maybe a little bit because of what we're focusing on, but that's where my opinion lies.
I think Micah Parsons is overrated. I'm a CD Lamb guy. I think he's phenomenal. I can't figure out Dak Prescott. I was a Tony Romo defender for all those years. I thought Romo was fantastic. But I hope Jerry Jones finds some lantern or genie lamp or magic potion and never dies, because talking about a mosquito hole. I want Rick's thoughts on this. Go ahead, Rick.
Well, if he never dies, then they'll never win. He needs to get out of the way and let someone make the football decisions. They waited too long to pay CD Lamb, so they had to overpay him. They're waiting too long to pay Dak, and they're not going to have another option, so they're going to overpay him. The longer they wait on these decisions, that they have no other option but to make them. But he acts like it's this game every time, and I don't know, the culture there I think will never change as long as he's the head decision maker. He needs to step out of the way eventually, but as long as he's alive, like you're saying, it will be his.
I love it. All right, to another big story in just money today. And we're back in the Bay Area. Steph Curry agrees to a $63 million extension with the Warriors for 2026, 2027. Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors have agreed to extend his contract through that season, one in which the NBA's all-time three-point leader, and bless his heart for what he did in the Olympics, will earn him $63 million. Curry's agent, Jeff Austin, confirmed the agreement on Thursday to the AP, the Associated Press. ESPN was first to report the agreement between Curry and the Warriors. Curry is now guaranteed about $178 million for the next 3 seasons, about $55.8 million for the season, about $59.6 million for the following season, which is 2025-26. And then now about, again, $62.6 million, the most the Warriors could offer by league rule for 2026-27. Rick, you're the NBA guy. You're in the Bay Area. I'm going back to you.
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to watch him dozens of times, and he basically turn the fortunes around for the Oakland Warriors, which now play in the Chase Center over here in San Francisco. So, there'll never be another player like him as far as I'm concerned. Greatest shooter of all time. We saw that obviously in the Olympics. This number of 60 million is just unbelievable. But if you would walk around San Francisco into the Chase Center, you would believe they're making some money around there, and it's mostly due to him. Now the rest of this roster this year is going to be very bad. They replaced Klay Thompson with Buddy Hield. who's lied about his age for the past 20 years, so we don't know how old he really is. And Draymond Green can't stay out of his own way, so they still won't draft or sign a center. So the Warriors' outlook, as long as Curry's here, is probably not going to be too much better than it's been the last 2 years.
Ed, you're a Laker fan. Just very quickly, your thoughts.
Oh, you know what? I think Rick's right about the overall roster, but he's amazing. The shots we saw him make, especially that last one in the Olympics, were unbelievable. The roster, Rick, you're right, but that guy can still sell tickets. He's still exciting. That's something they can look forward to. But as far as overall the championship teams, yeah, you mentioned Draymond, Klay Thompson, Iguodala, Livingston, Durant. They're all gone, man. But this guy here is still exciting to watch. I love to watch that guy. So congratulations to him.
I loved Sean Livingston. I thought he was fantastic. Let us wrap up our headline or top news segment with this. This is also Jerry Jones, and Rick knows why I'm showing this. This is a high school trophy for a game tonight or tomorrow night or Saturday. It's a Whataburger trophy. It's like one of the most Texas things ever. I love Whataburger. I think it's fantastic. It's better than In-N-Out, and I'm going to get a lot of shit for that. I'd rather have Lottaburger's kind of declined, but I'd rather have Whataburger over In-N-Out. I'll get it in Vegas. It's a treat once every now and then, but I'm going to get ripped for that. And then this cracked me up today. Randy Scott, today in sports, where were you when Manti Te'o's girlfriend did not exist? And Randy Scott tweeting out, I was right there. So I love that. And then lastly, I have to, where is it? Here we go. Jalen House has announced that he has his own clothing line. So you can visit it at Murray Ave. Kind of like the logo, Jalen House Party. There you go. Thought Eric sent this to me. He's also got shorts, which for me are way too short. But anybody have a comment on the Jalen House new unisex t-shirt line and shorts line?
I don't think anyone wants to see Ryan's thighs. So, yeah, maybe not buy the shorts.
Great logo.
I'm going to quote Danny DeVito in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I can't wear those shorts because you're going to see my massive dong. Yeah, he released his clothing line. I thought it was pretty cool. Appreciate you guys sharing that with me. We're going to take a quick break. I don't know who will be back with us, but we will be with former UNM linebacker Lobo back Ben Wysong. We appreciate everybody watching. My name is Ryan Tamori. For Rick Thompson, Ed Nunez, Eric Moulton, this is the Pit Press Live. Welcome back to the Pit Press Live. My name is Ryan Tamori. Appreciate all of our sponsors: Affordable Service, Hydro Bar, Turquoise Desert Tap Room, and I'm forgetting one, and I feel really bad about that. Well, we appreciate all our sponsors. I usually am looking at it, and I'm having a massive brain fart. Anyway, jumping on to this guy is fantastic at hosting this show. All right. Jumping to our next guest, he is a former UNM linebacker and Lobo back during the heyday, during the Rocky Long era. Can't talk tonight. Really appreciate this guy. He's going to join us once a week to break down the game. And as they said, the name carries weight with Lobo football. He's also the nephew of Luke and Evan Wysong on the team. His name is Ben Wysong. We appreciate it. Have him on. Ben, how you doing?
Doing well, fellas. Thank you guys for having me tonight. Yeah, it's been good. Hopping on and chit-chatting with you guys with, UNM football. And, yeah, I love the topics here. I just saw the stat with the Kelsey brothers getting $100 million from Amazon. That's nuts.
Yeah, that's nuts. I didn't mention that.
Could you imagine?
No, I
100 mil just to talk on a podcast is, mind-boggling to me.
I'd be dead in Las Vegas.
Absolutely. I would not.
You would find my body in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
All right. We are going to break down many things here. Little bit of an odd week for your family, and I apologize for everything that was said. We talked about it on our show. I'll get to that, or if you don't want to dwell on it, that's okay. You had mentioned it to me. We were all mad about that. But first and foremost, football. I want to start with your thoughts on the Montana State game and how it played out. Again, I was a little bit critical, but there were a lot of positive things. I mean, I got ripped apart, but there were a lot of positive things. I wanted your thoughts on the Montana State game.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, there was a lot of positives that came out of it. I mean, yes, they didn't get the ultimate goal of, getting the win, but, after looking back, I'll probably watch the game at least, 3 times. And, there was a lot of good signs on both sides of the ball. The only thing I would love to see is just consistency. And I know we talked about that, that morning before the game. But, the big thing that I took away from the game, though, was that these guys, they played their butts off for, 60 minutes. And, I think in this situation, looking at the game and just looking at the rosters, I think experience won this game. I think, like Coach Mendenhall always said about this team is that, these guys are a program. These guys haven't been good for just a couple of years. They've been a solid program for quite some time. And when you've got a program like that, that's established the way they are, where it's, they are consistently winning. It's going to be tough, especially for a week 1 matchup. So, given the fact that these guys are 13.5 underdogs, and they were up 17 points for most of the game until that fourth quarter. And, this is a learning experience. You got to be able to play full 60 minutes, like coaches always tell you growing up through high school, college, whatever. So, but I was impressed though. I was actually very happy to see these guys back on the field for 1 and 2, see them excited to play football. That sideline was rocking for those guys.
I want to ask you about your nephew. 6 receptions, 95 yards, that 53-yarder, which I think we all saw. And I thought about you right away from the press box. What was your reaction to that?
I think for me, the biggest takeaway on that play that I was the most impressed about with him was the fact that he was able to flip his hips and readjust to the ball. Because initially when he was running the route, he's looking inside towards the middle of the field. And next thing you know, the ball's in the middle of the air. He's got to flip the hips right away and adjust to the ball, in split seconds. And, to make that catch, an over the shoulder catch like that is tough to do. So I was very impressed with Luke. He loves to show out on the first games, of the season. Cause it was the same way the past 2 years where he had his 2 touchdown game, I think last year against, or was it the year before with Tennessee Tech and Maine. So he loves those week 1 matchups, I guess. But I was very proud of him. It was good to see him back on the field, especially considering last year that he, had a red shirt with the injury. So good to see him.
No, and that's understandable. I have to ask you about it with. I muted myself. Yeah, I have to ask you with everything that played out with that game. It wasn't just him that dropped the pass. It was Medford, and I thought, man, he had a really fantastic game. But I know you spoke to him and you were texting me that he is Luke is harder on Luke than anybody else.
Absolutely.
Did you guys have a conversation about that? Did he mention it to you? I know it's probably want to be forgotten, but just what had happened there at the end of the game.
Yeah, I mean, when we met up with the game, I mean, he was obviously devastated, but I mean, so was, the rest of the guys too. I mean, that was a heartbreaking loss for them. And with Luke, he's his own worst critic, so he's going to be tough on himself. But like we told him, hey, everything is a learning experience. Learn from this, and grow and move on from there. And move that into the next week. You have 24 hours to think about it, process it, and then it's next man up, Arizona. So, and I've seen people say, I think Sean Ryder did an article about in the Journal over the weekend where I think Caleb and Luke, like their drop percentages are like 7 and 8% or 7 and 15, something like that. So it was very out of character for them to drop those balls. But as we know in sports, anything can happen and it will happen. It's, it's Murphy's Law. But yeah, he's in good spirits. Last time I talked to him, I know when I talked to Adam, Dad, older brother, he actually was able to go to practice on Tuesday, and you could hear it in the background when talking with Adam that these guys were amped up, hustling around the field, getting each other hyped up. So that was a good sign to, see and hear that, hey, we're on to Arizona now, and we, watch the film, learn from the mistakes, and let's take it to Arizona now on the first road trip.
You had sent me a text message and said that, the spirits were high. And I know you just elaborated on that, but we've talked about how that was kind of a demoralizing loss. Can you elaborate on the spirits? I mean, it's good to hear that they're upbeat and they're looking forward to Arizona. And I'm sure they're relishing this opportunity with what they're walking into.
Sure. And looking back and even just thinking about it with, I think a lot of it has to come down from the coaching staff. I think this coaching staff does a great job of, hey, let's break down what went right, what went wrong. You guys heard Coach Mendenhall in, the post-game conference where he's talking about essentially alignment and assignment for the defensive guys, as far as what went wrong in that fourth quarter. And I think with this coaching staff that these guys do a terrific job of, hey, let's review the film. Let's watch what went right, what went wrong. And we're going to learn from it, and we are going to move on to Arizona and, execute the way that we can, that we know how. So, the word that I love that Coach Mendenhall would use is, as far as, the consistent aspect of it, and they weren't that on Saturday, but they are also, like you said, very capable. And that's a great sign, in my opinion, where, it's there, that, the skill set's there, that it's just now just comes down to execution. And personally, I believe that's something that's very fixable. So that's a good sign. I mean, we have some great athletes on this team. So I think, don't get me wrong, Arizona is a great football team, and, but I think UNM is going to be able to challenge these guys a little bit, especially offensively, seeing what Devin can do now that he's got full control of the team. I'm excited for his potential and to see how he develops, especially in bigger games like this. It's just going to help these guys in the later run, especially when it comes to conference play, in my opinion.
I'm going to throw it to Ed Nunez or Eric Malton. Ed, I'll throw it to you first. You have a question for Ben.
Yeah, Ben, defensively, one of the things that Coach Mendenhall said about gap control. He had said that, and then Rick Wright wrote on Sunday that New Mexico was in 4-2-3s, different lineups or alignments on defense.
Right.
What did it use now? When he talks about gap control, is it the front seven? Did you see what problems did they have stopping? What did you see defensively as far as was it gap control, or does New Mexico lack a space eater at that defensive tackle? Rick Wright wrote that it might be a personnel thing. And I hate to bring it like that, but they knew the run was coming in the fourth quarter, and they still couldn't stop it. So what did you see defensively as far as alignment?
Right. I think it was a little bit of both. I think, for us, and just going back to when, I was at UNM, the big thing they taught us first thing, in fall camp and, well, pretty much any camp was alignment and assignment. If you can get those two things down, you have basically solved about 85% of the problem. And now it just goes down to execution. So it's very hard to play a defense when you're lining up and you don't really know what you're doing. So I got a little bit of that. And then also it helps too, if you're not putting yourself in a good position to make a play, unless you're just an all-star stud and know what you're doing. And, like we just said, it's hard to make those plays. So, but like I said earlier, though, I think these two things are very fixable, though, and I think it's just going to come with the game experience with these guys, and also too with these guys playing together as a unit. So, I mean, this was game one with all these guys playing together. When you got 60 guys on a roster that were playing at a different school the year before, or wherever, it's going to take a little bit of time, But what gives me a lot of hope in this is just knowing Coach Mendenhall and just his process. It is a process. I mean, not to sound like Coach Saban, but I mean, look at his success. And I think it's something that Coach Mendenhall is implementing highly here with the program. But if they can fix the alignment and assignment aspect of it, they just solve, like I said, at least 80% of the problem going to each play. So, and they can just, it allows you to just go to play football when you're confident knowing what you're doing on each play. So, and I think that's going to be a big key, especially going into this week now where it's another week of practice under their belt. They're playing a better opponent. So it's going to be a challenge for them, but I'm curious to see, and I'm excited for their challenge that they're going to be facing this weekend.
Talk a
Ben,
little bit about the just one more, Eric.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Talk a little bit about the improvements on the penalty side of it. Everybody's wondering about that. Talk a little bit about what you saw as far as the improvements on the penalties. They didn't have as many.
I was in love with that aspect of it, and I think it comes down to, and this started from day one when Coach Mendenhall and the staff showed up, that discipline was going to be a huge emphasis, and it all started from their offseason strength and conditioning and their workouts, and you are now seeing it carry over onto the field. So I know that was a very strong point of emphasis that Coach Long and the staff wanted to implement going into the season or even with spring. But it was very refreshing to see. I mean, it was a totally different, ball team that we were watching on Saturday. So, and I think it's just going to continue to stay consistent. I mean, call me biased, but just knowing this coaching staff and just how they have, managed this team and the way that they go through practice, I think the penalties will stay low. This is a very disciplined football team, and Coach Long was the same way, and it reminds me of exactly that. So, and when you've got discipline, you're going to be very successful because then it translates into being able to execute.
Yeah,
Eric, all yours.
I thought this game, and maybe my personal opinion, maybe some of the others, but I really felt like this game was won or lost on just a handful of plays.
Yeah.
Some missed opportunities is what it came down to, right? Just a few missed assignments.
Sure.
Or a few missed opportunities to convert a first down or two, because I think Luke catches that ball. He runs in for a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Medford catches that ball. It's a first down.
Yeah.
And the clock keeps running. They get a new set of downs. So whichever way you want to play it, I think it was just altogether missed opportunities or missed assignments. But looking to the bright spot of things, the things that you found encouraging, specifically with the offensive side of the ball and maybe a little bit with Dampier, what did you see that gave you a little bit of hope? Because I felt like the offense might have sputtered a little bit there in the second half. Play calling might have gotten a little conservative, but he definitely has the ability to throw, because there were a handful of drives in the first half where he looked really impressive. He was hitting receivers in stride. He was converting first downs. They were moving the ball well. Can you elaborate just on kind of what your thoughts were around that, and how do you see his season unfolding?
Man, I think Devin, the sky's the limit with him. He's, such a great athlete, and he's a playmaker. He's a natural playmaker. And to see him just continue to grow into a leader, especially as young as he is, I mean, he's a true sophomore. So I'm very impressed with him, the way that he's able to be the general on the field for this team. And the other thing I was impressed with, considering just years past, was our O-line play, considering that the fact that these guys have all never played with each other before. And there were sequences in the game that line was, moving these guys back. They were actually driving the ball. So it was good to see those two things, with Devin playing as well as he did. And, he was very careful with the ball. He didn't turn the ball over much. So it's, actually, I don't know if he did at all now that I think about it. So, and even just like the play they just showed right there when he ran, the QB run, the bootleg, where, I mean, for him to know, like, hey, hide the ball and just, because I think it was on a whim where he was, I think technically supposed to hand the ball off. And then he just, right before they broke the huddle, or he's reading the defense, he's like, hey, you know what? This is what I see. I'm going to tuck this thing and run, and that's he made a business call and he did it, and it worked. You know, where most other young quarterbacks were these guys like, hey, I better do what I'm supposed to. I don't want to get, I don't want to get my ass chewed when I get to the sideline. What the hell are you doing? But, I mean, look how it turned out, and it was successful. So those two things, between the play of Devin, which I'm super excited about with him, and, the O-line play for game number 1, those are the two things that stuck out to me the most.
Any other questions on Montana State? All right, Ben,
Much
I'm going to
tougher
give
opponent approaching.
What's that?
Yeah, much tougher opponent this weekend.
I mean, I was reading an article about these guys early on ESPN. It was kind of centered around Noah, just about his upbringing. But, man, these guys got a lot of talent on this team, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And I think there's, 5 guys that have been playing together since they were in high school over at Servite. And I know Noah is one of them, and so is their All-American receiver. So these guys got some talent. Which brings me to, I'm curious to see how our secondary holds up against this receiving group. And then the other thing too, just more of an emotional aspect of it. I mean, just straight down the middle.
Really
I saw a
explosive.
stat too with Noah where I think he's averaging he's like 70%, 72% on each down when he's throwing the ball. So I'm like, you're making that throw every 3 out of 4 attempts. So that's just impressive for as young as he is. And for him to be able to step up, especially once they got into conference. And then the other emotional thing I'm curious to see is how these guys do playing against Bill. I think that's a big question that a lot of these fans are, probably thinking that have been following this team closely. And I haven't seen anything if Bill's the true starter. I'm pretty sure he is when they released the depth chart, but that's going to be, a little bit of an emotional game for these guys. You got, Coach G on the sideline with those guys. You got a couple of these guys. I think Noah Avenger went to high school with some of these guys as well too at Servite. So it's going to be a fun game, and it's going to be fun to watch and see how these guys, prepare and execute against a team of this caliber.
I'm going to get in trouble for this, but they are a lot of fun to play with on NCAA football. They are so much fun to play with. And then
I was watching that game earlier. I was like, man, these guys are good.
And then they did a roster update. So if you run the ball with Bill, and then they've got another guy, I think Conley, but
Yeah.
I don't know. It was a lot of fun to watch. Are you going to the game, Ben?
No, unfortunately, work duty calls. So this is actually the one game I won't be able to make as far as away games. But I will definitely be watching. I know Adam and Beth are going to go. I think they're going that morning. So that's why I told them, make sure you guys wear your red, because I think they're doing a whiteout for this game.
It is a whiteout. That McMillan kid, and I always butcher his name. They call him T-Mac.
Yeah, I don't even try.
It's all right. And Fafita, I mean, I'm excited to watch. I'm excited to watch them play down the stretch. I know we're talking about them. We had some Arizona guys on that cover the team on Tuesday night, and
Right.
I kind of asked the question: if you've been watching highlights, and I know you saw that, what do you in the college football you watch? Do you think there's a better wide receiver QB tandem in the country?
I mean, right off the top of my head, just with everyone that's been coming back this year, they're definitely probably at the top of the list. I mean, you can't go wrong with teams like Ohio State. They're bringing back, Ibuka, and they got that freshman stud that's going to be playing. I'm watching the Colorado game on, behind me here, and just watching guys like Travis Hunter and, what these guys can do. But I would definitely say that Arizona is very much in the discussion. And that's the big thing with these guys. You have multiple weapons at every spot. And the big thing I noticed too is they've got a lot of depth. Like in particular, looking at the running back room, now that you got Bill and then you got the Conley guy, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how often, UNM maybe rotates their front seven as far as, hey, do they rotate their D line every 3 plays just to keep them fresh and, be able to keep up with these guys. So it's very much a chess match with these guys.
Does anybody have it? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I think they're the official depth chart that was released named 4 starting running backs. So you talk about, running back by committee, and those guys not ever getting tired.
Exactly.
That's going to be tough to stop, right? And like guys that have the same level of caliber that Krosky
Right.
Merritt does, right? It's
Yeah, and looking at that, I mean, and it's not like it's, hey, they're, they were like going based off of like their recruiting, anything like that. These guys have all contributed already at a, some capacity at the college level. So these guys know what it's like. They have the experience. And for me personally, I feel like experience goes a long way, at the college, at the college level, as far as confidence and just, being able to like, hey, I'm going to run the ball down your throat. So try and stop me.
we didn't even mention Arizona's defense either, which I think is really underrated, or they were really good last year and they're looking to build off that too. So
Yeah.
well-rounded, really aggressive, fly all over the field.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. The one game in particular was the USC game. I mean, they held Caleb Williams, to, gosh, I think it was maybe like 28 going into the overtime, which is impressive for a team like USC. I mean, those guys always got offensive talent. Those guys know how to put, points on the board. So, yeah, this defense is definitely underrated. I know, like you just said, everyone is talking about the offense, but these guys, can definitely shut some people down.
I think I'm really high on them this year. It's like, the UNM's got to go there and figure. Again, we talk about it, punching them in the mouth.
Yeah.
I'm excited to watch this U of A team all year. So it's
Me too.
It's rough for me. His name is Ben Wysong. He's a former Lobo back and linebacker for the University of New Mexico. Ben, we've kind of becoming more friendly doing this. I appreciate your time in answering those candid questions.
Yeah.
We
thank
will.
you guys.
We will bug you down the stretch, and we appreciate all your support. Again, it's Ben Wysong breaking down the Montana State game and looking ahead to U of A. Of course, I'll be talking to you Saturday. So Ben Wysong joining us. Appreciate it, Ben. When we come back,
Thank you guys.
we will be joined by Nick Capola from the Las Cruces Sun News. Looking forward to talking to him. We're going to break down the starting quarterback position at New Mexico State. And again, the basketball article earlier today, they'll get a quick question with that. But looking forward to talking to Nick. My name is Ryan Tamori. This is the Pitt Press Live.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
All right, welcome back to the Pitt Press podcast. Excuse me, Pitt Press. Dude, I can't pronounce anything tonight. I'm butchering everything tonight, and I'm a terrible, terrible host. My name is Ryan Tamori. This is the Pitt Press Live. Eric Moulton. I appreciate Ed Nunez, Rick Thompson. They had to jump off. And Now we're joined by a writer for the Las Cruces Sun News, who I walked away and realized I butchered your last name, much like people butcher my last name, so I get it. Nick Coppola, right? I said Capella, right?
Both of those are wrong. It's Coppola.
Coppola. I was thinking of Francis Ford Coppola. I didn't want to butcher it. I'm so sorry, man. It's Nick Coppola from the Las Cruces Sun News. How you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing all right. I spent most of the night just watching college football. There's a lot on tonight, so I'm assuming you guys have done a little bit of the same. And so I'm enjoying my Thursday. I'll say that.
No, it was fantastic, and I forgot to cue up Oklahoma from the Broadway play and musical Oklahoma. So I'm sorry for that. I'm going to start with this question right here. You had I even had something ready for you to go, and I'm just going to do it. Our next guest is a sports reporter from the Las Cruces Sun News. He covers New Mexico State athletics and high school sports in Las Cruces. He's a Boomer Sooner. So there you go, Nick. Had to do that for you. Glad you're well, and thank you for joining us. I hate to start here, but two more of the New Mexico State basketball players filed a lawsuit against New Mexico State University, claiming that officials knew or should have known that 3 former players of the men's basketball team were sexually abusing, harassing, and assaulting their teammates. This was a big deal here. I know this is fresh to you. You helped the story with Jessica Onzurez of the Sun News. What do you know at this point? And break it down. Just anything that you know.
Right. So this lawsuit was filed this week. I believe it was filed in the 3rd Judicial District Court of New Mexico. So another one that was filed there. New Mexico State didn't want to comment on it. Neither did their athletic director or really anyone in the university. So we didn't get anyone from the Aggies to comment. But one of there's a couple players involved in this. One is identified. One is not. One Aggie is Bol Cure. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Another one is just identified as John Doe 3 and is anonymous. Bol claimed that he and at least one other person told coaches that a couple players on the team or a few players on the team posed some kind of a danger, and they were creating an unsafe locker room environment, basically an unsafe working environment there at New Mexico State basketball, and that he faced retaliation from coaches and program itself. So according to court documents and according to the lawsuit that was filed, he witnessed assault and harassment of his fellow teammates. I don't think he himself was assaulted, but he did face retaliation for reporting several incidents ranging from, like I said, assault, harassment, to drug use, to gun possession, and things like that. And keep in mind, this is all alleged. So this is just a lawsuit. It's not
right
100% proven, but it is what is being claimed. And yeah, he's now at Alabama A&M. I think he transferred out because of all this stuff too. So in a second lawsuit that was filed against New Mexico State, the anonymous player, simply identified as John Doe 3, alleged that he was actually assaulted by players on the team, and that he was tackled to the ground. And I don't know if I want to repeat the allegations on the show, but he's claiming that some not great things happened to him, essentially, and that just some very nasty stuff is being thrown around, and claimed that players were present, other players were present in the locker room as it happened. And yeah, the lawsuit also alleges that coaches and officials should have known or did know about the situation and did nothing about it. And these were some of the allegations that led to the cancellation or the forfeiture of their final few games of New Mexico State. So yeah, some not so great stuff being thrown around. Obviously, this is the first of several claims that have been made all the way back to 2022. So yeah, not so great. Probably gonna, as more stuff comes out, we'll do more reporting on it. So that's basically what's going on.
Appreciate that answer. And if you've never listened to me on this show, you're more than welcome to you're more than welcome to elaborate. I understand why you don't. I don't think our listeners want to hear that. Anyway, on our way to football, Parker Awad was named the starting quarterback. He beat out Deuce Hogan, Santino Marucci, and Jake McNamara. You elaborate on that.
Yes. So I was told sometime last week that they were close to naming Parker to be the starter. I think I mean, I guess it's already out there, so I guess I can talk about it. Off the record, I got told by Tony Sanchez that Parker, they were leaning towards him, and that I could call him over the weekend. I did call him, but by the time that happened, he hadn't told Parker and Deuce yet, so he wanted to tell him before I officially broke it. And so I called him Monday morning before a press conference that he had, and confirmed that he was the starter. So I got the story out before he actually announced it, and that's what they're going with. And I think a lot of people, I think I said this when I came on last time too, that when Deuce transferred to New Mexico State, a lot of people just assumed that he was going to be the starter. But that has not been the case. And Parker, despite maybe some of his, he's a little bit younger. He's only a sophomore. He's a junior college transfer. Deuce has experience at Power 4 programs, but they feel like he's better to run the offense that they want to run, and they like his dual threat ability. They feel like that gives them more in terms of what they want to do. I would not be surprised to see Deuce Hogan take some snaps against Southeast Missouri States, and not just throwaway snaps if New Mexico State is up by 50 points. Like actually get in the game and gain some stats and gain some PT in there. But Parker's gonna get the nod for now, and it was a very tight battle. And it came down to Parker and Deuce, and so they just seem to like what Deuce brings to the table more, especially with the ability with his legs. And so that's what they came up with.
I didn't ask you about the running back situation last week, but Monte Watkins is a heck of a running back. What have you learned from him in the fall camp? How is he going to help this team moving forward?
Right. So Tony and, all of his coaches have really raved about this running back room, and it's pretty stacked. Not only Monte Watkins is a part of it, but they also have 2 transfers, Mike Washington from Buffalo and Seth McGowan from Butler Community College, previously at Oklahoma. And so I would honestly expect all 3 of them to get somewhat equal touches and things like that. But they really read around Monty when I did a story on the transfers that I dropped. Tony made sure to mention him several times as a person who's gonna get a lot of carries, and the person that may well could carry the load, especially since he's a little bit familiar with the system. But Mike and Seth might eat into some of those touches, but they definitely are confident that Monty can have another good season.
Eric, do you have anything?
Yeah, I do. Can you talk a little bit about the number of incoming transfers and how they have adapted to the new team culture under the new coach? And then are there any key players that you've just taken a notice to in practice that could be potential guys that are kind of highlighted either on the defensive or offensive side of the ball that no one really knows about yet?
Right. So there are, I think, over 30 transfers combined from Division I schools and junior colleges. Some of them I just named from the running back room. Obviously, Parker Watt and Deuce Hogan were both also transfers. There are a lot. So some of the guys that I noticed in a scrimmage I went to where they sat a lot of players, where we'll sat a lot of starters because they expect them to play a lot. Were guys like Nakif Hina at nose tackle. He actually played with Tony Sanchez, or for Tony Sanchez, in his final season at UNLV in 2019, and now he's back with them. They like Kel Edwards a lot. He's another transfer. When I talked to Tony about the transfers, he mentioned Nick Session, a safety out of Oklahoma State. I do expect him to get the start over Josiah Cox, who's another transfer out of Arizona State, although Josiah will probably play a lot as well. Joe Morris, I think that's the defensive coordinator's name for New Mexico State, coming from Sam Houston State. He brought 2 defensive back transfers with him, or 2 key defensive back transfers with him, and DeMarcus Crosby and DeCara Cobbs. Crosby, I think, was named to the All-Conference USA team last season. So that's someone who they're really excited about, someone who can hit the ground running straight away for them. Offensively, Most of the transfers are with the running backs and the quarterbacks. Most of the receivers are going to be returners, but also guys that just didn't get to play much that last year, were limited opportunities. There's some other JUCO transfers behind them, but they probably won't get to play as much as guys like Cordell David, Donovan Falpel. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Jordan Smith is another one too, that another returning receiver. Hunter Talley is a transfer tight end that they're excited about. I didn't include him in my transfers to watch post because there was just so many that coach named, and I can't put like all 15 or 20 or 30 or however many there are in there. But yeah, those are definitely some key ones. I'd watch out for Nakapina, watch out for Cale Edwards, Nick Session, DeCara Cobbs, DeMarcus Crosby, and of course, Seth McGowan and Mike Washington. And that's not even getting into the quarterbacks.
What about any local athletes, kids that are from New Mexico? Do you know anything about that? I mean, obviously we just talked with Ben Wysong, who's the uncle of the Wysong brothers who play for UNM. And there's a few others like Nick Trujillo and some key players that play for UNM. Anybody like that for New Mexico State?
I'm not really I guess familiar with that. Or just how many local players, especially considering that a lot of their key contributors this year are going to be transfers, and so maybe they're not from the area or things like that. So I'm trying to look on the roster to see if I can find anyone that maybe could play a lot and is from New Mexico or is somewhere around there and things like that they have heard about or that they're excited about. It's definitely not going to be that many for reasons that we've already mentioned and things like that. So
okay,
see. Yeah, I not any that jumps to top of my mind.
No, I was going to say looking at it, it didn't seem like there were a lot of like New Mexico kids on that roster, but transitioning into another New Mexico kid, what do you know about Diego Pavia, and is there a little bit of buzz down there that he is probably getting the starting job as the quarterback for Vanderbilt?
I think he was named the starter a couple of days ago or maybe yesterday or something, because I know I tweeted something about that and
right.
things like that. So I know he got voted the team captain. So that's definitely a good sign that he's going to be the starter. I don't really know who else could start over him. I think he's definitely a quality quarterback, and Vanderbilt's the type of team that cues him. So I mean, I think I tweeted out something, but if it was something off, I do expect him to be the starter and then be a fine quarterback for Vanderbilt. I know New Mexico State still likes him and still likes to hear good things about him, and probably knows that he just went there to follow Jerry Kill and just because he or Tim Beck, and that Diego likes those guys, and so I'm sure Aggies fans will be following him, and I think we'll get the nod for Vandy.
We'll wrap up with one more question. Thanks again for joining us tonight. But what's the buzz around Las Cruces right now with the fan base? Obviously, they just got that new video board installed, so people were probably excited about that. But any idea what the ticket sales look like? How many people they're anticipating for Saturday? What's the general feel of the fan base right now?
Yeah, I did get to talk with Mario today about that. I think season ticket sales are about the same as it was last year. I think the revenue is a little bit up, but that's probably because the season tickets are a little more expensive than they were last year. But they expect similar numbers than they did. It's definitely an increase from what they had in 2022, but not too big of an increase. So probably just about the same numbers as they had in 2023 for season tickets. Around the New Mexico State fan base, I'd say a bit of a kind of a cautious optimism, just because they've had winning seasons recently. They've had 2 winning seasons in the last 2 years, but it hasn't really been a program ever that has been able to have stability in winning and things like that. So there's optimism that they can become that, but also cautious because of the history of New Mexico State football. I do think Tony Sanchez is playing a bit of a role in that, just due to the intensity and the passion that he's bringing, and the fact that he's an alumnus. I've got to talk to a lot of people about that for a big feature story I'm doing on him that will hopefully come out first thing tomorrow morning on the Sun News sites about him, and just everyone that I talked to talked about just he has just such a burning desire to just win and has just a fervent passion for New Mexico State and just everything he does, and how it's just this fiery character that brings a bit of a chip on his shoulder as well, and always feels like he has something to prove. And especially after his time in UNLV, where even though UNLV was a pretty hard place to win there, or I guess it was when he was there, it didn't really go the way he wanted in terms of just wins and things like that. I don't think UNLV ever finished with a losing season, with a winning season, excuse me, with Tony Sanchez. So I definitely feel like he has, a point to prove, or feels like he has multiple points to prove. Not only that he can take a college team and build them up into a winner, but also that New Mexico State can become a winning program. And so I do definitely feel like the fan base shares that kind of feeling as well. And Tony's been a big part of that for sure.
I was going to ask you about your Enterprise piece, and you did it right there, Nick. I appreciate it. Lastly, and again, Nick Coppola. Francis Ford Coppola. I'm sorry, dude. I had it right last week. How did I do this? Coppola. What do you know about SEMO? I just know them for making the NCAA tournament last year. I love the acronym. New Mexico State should probably beat them pretty handily, right?
They should. Southeast Missouri State's coming in this 1-0. They beat North Alabama pretty handily in the FCS kickoff game, 37-15. I think they had 4 takeaways, and the running back had 90 or 92 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns. So they're definitely coming in on a high. But yes, it should be a team that New Mexico State should beat. I don't think that they had a winning season last year, but 2 years ago, I think they did make the FCS playoffs. So maybe a bit of an up and down program, but also a team that New Mexico State should beat, a team that they expect to beat. And also, they haven't gone 1-0. They haven't started the season off with a win since 2014. So that's definitely something that is probably motivating them as well, that they want to start the season off with a win, and they should definitely get the job done this Saturday against Southeast Missouri State for sure.
Las Cruces Sun reporter, I love you, man. I'm going to give you some advice. You're with a couple of schmucks right now, and the rest of us, you don't have to be as nervous. I'll handle our listeners. I love your insight, man. I know you're new down there. You've been there a month. Nick Coppola. I'm sorry I butchered it. Tonight, I feel so bad. Hey, enjoy.
Everyone has at some point. Don't worry about that.
Well, again, look at my last name. I have to explain to people it's not Italian. It's fun. Nick Coppola from the Las Cruces Sun News. Thanks a lot, man. We'll bug you next week. Appreciate it. Enjoy covering the game.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. All right, Nick Coppola. I can't believe I do that. I butcher it all the time. All right, I want to go to some before we finish the show, because I got to jump on an Arizona pod because I'm that important. I want to go to our question of the night. Does UNM football team cover 31.5 points against Arizona on Saturday night? And then I'll go to the comments. No, they do not. I love meeting these kids. I love them. I'm just being real as a gambler, and I love Ben Wysong. No, this Arizona team with Noah Fafita, T-Mac McMillan, the defense, Jacob Manua, we've talked about it. It's fantastic. They're really, really, really good. I think they're exciting to watch. I'm looking forward to watching them play during the season. This game, I don't know. I think it's going to be pretty brutal. Go to the comments and I'll get Eric's final thoughts. Dave Fresquez, love me some Pit Press. Don't love me Minnesota coming back on the Nuggets. Michael Cedillo, I will get to you. We're talking to somebody from the Las Cruces Sun News, not anybody in Albuquerque. Is there any word on UNM considering for their athletic director? Michael Cedillo again, who is UNM considering for their next day? It's very private. They will be doing a national search. Dave Williams will be a part of that interview, and I'm sure Jalen Dominguez will be a part of that interview. It's super, super private, but those are the names obviously linked. We're going to have Dave Williams on next week. He came down and sat with us, and he was politicking. Every time I say politicking, I think of the Big Sean line, White Girls Politicking. But Dave Williams Politicking, that's my bar. He sat down with us, and I have heard mixed things about Dave. My interaction with him, I really appreciate him. Eric, you're a little bit more in that loop. What do you know about that search? Probably not a whole heck of a lot, but your thoughts.
Not really. No, not any more than you guys would. You guys would go to all the press conferences, but I think the right thing to do is to launch a national search, hire one of those search firms to kind of go out and filter through as many people as you can. I do like having the feel of someone like Jalen Dominguez, someone that knows the local market, someone that knows and has relationships with the local donors, because that's a key part of the role is fundraising. And he's done really well, really strong record with the Lobo Club, been in some leadership positions and been around the country a little bit too. But um, they want someone with experience, and they want someone to come in and ideally plug and play and inject some um, new initiatives within the program, right? Someone that's going to come in and uplift and hopefully help the program transition more into some modern times and do some more of the video and social media and just drive different revenue streams. And I know that Lobo basketball is really predominant here and is one of the only big major revenue drivers, but they've got to think about other things that they can kind of dip their toes into to help influence some of that other money in other areas, and hoping to rebuild this football program and provide it with the right resources to make sure it can be successful and relevant again and start filling those seats. So I'm really curious. I think we're going to follow it pretty tightly, and we'll know just when everyone else knows, and we'll keep everyone in the loop.
Yeah, no, it's something I'm interested in. I think by having Dave Williams on when we can is a big deal. So you'll hear from him first, and I would say he's probably number one on the list. I don't know. Again, I could be wrong. It's a super private thing. Not to repeat myself. Eric, do the Lobos cover on Saturday?
I'm the optimistic guy here, but I have a hard time thinking they'll cover that 31 just due to how Arizona and how electric and fast that offense scores. They've got dudes that fly all over the field. No one really transferred. I think they kind of held a lot of their key pieces from last year. I think they were ranked as high as 8 or 9 last season was as high as they got ranked.
I think they were 14th when they played Oklahoma in the Alamo Bowl, and they finished 11th. But I mean, they won like 7 or 8 in a row, and they whipped people, and they gave people a hard time when they lost.
Yeah, well, we talked about it before we even jumped on this, and they were taking Washington down to the wire. They're just that kind of offensive power, and I mean, I feel like they upgraded a few offensive pieces. They've got a 4 deep running back room. They probably added a few other key pieces on the offensive and defensive lines. So they definitely bulked up, and it looks like they're kind of ready to roll full steam ahead. So I think the Lobos just kind of catch them at the wrong time. It's probably going to be sold out. It's a whiteout. That team's going to be excited, and I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully, Lobos put up some points and at least make it as competitive as can be. But I find it really hard to take that 31 points.
And an update for you tonight: Sacramento State's beating San Jose State, as I burp on air, 17-7. So there you go. That's another Big Sky school beating the Mountain West team. Colorado won, and NC State survived that upset. So thank goodness. Rutgers is 1-0. They have a better record than Georgia. Just throwing that out there. Hey, we appreciate all the listeners. We will be coming to you live. The next time we come to you live, Saturday morning for the Morning Owl, 9 a.m. It's a college football preview. And it's finally, we've been doing this a month, is a full slate of college football. We'll break down U of A, and we will talk about, Jacob Neff and I will talk about the favorite bets of the day, and then we'll focus on other key matchups in the Mountain West. The first one that comes out to my mind is UNLV at Houston. That is a big game. UNLV thinks they can go in there and beat it. Want to thank our sponsors. I'm going to do this again for Hydro Bar. Please check them out. Mean Machine is going to be there Saturday signing autographs. Steve Garcia. He is on a 4-fight winning streak. Join Hydro Bar for an exclusive autograph signing and raffle. This is an event no true UFC fan in the community can afford to miss. Be a part of the excitement and support one of New Mexico's rising stars. Hydro Bar is at 7400 Montgomery Boulevard Northeast in Albuquerque, 87109, and it's Suite 19. And of course, we want to thank Affordable Service Heating, Plumbing, and Air Conditioning to your HVAC needs. In the Albuquerque and Rio Rancho area, Affordable Service has been in business in New Mexico since 1986, and it's still locally owned during that time. They've served more than 40,000 customers, providing complete residential and light commercial HVAC services, including heating, cooling, electrical, as well as plumbing. Affordable Service takes pride in their staff and their commitment to the Albuquerque and Rio Rancho community. Appreciate them. Eric, do you have any final thoughts or anything, or just before I cut you off there?
No, this was more your thing than mine, but the sports picks on ESPN that you wanted to release. Did you want to?
Oh, I forgot about it.
That?
Yeah, it's on ESPN. I'll tweet it out. I believe it's under the Pitt Press, and it's college football picks, and it's against the spread. So if you're on ESPN, just type it in. I forgot to put it up tonight. I'm trying not to make these Arizona guys wait that joined us, so I'm trying to wrap up things quickly here, just to be professional and courteous. But we appreciate everybody. And again, we will talk to you on Saturday morning at 9 a.m. For Rick Thompson. Got to do it. Richard. And you know what? I didn't thank you, Miguel Sanchez, watching our live stream of the Arizona game on EA College Football. I don't think you commented tonight, but
Miguel Sanchez.
Thank you, Lionel Hutz. Everybody have a good Friday. I'll say it now. Be safe over the Labor Day weekend. We will talk to you Saturday morning. Same bat time, same bat place, same Lobo time, same Lobo channel. The Pitt Press live, our YouTube channel. Check us out on Twitter. Check us out on Instagram. It's at the Pitt Press NMX, the artist formerly known as Twitter. Instagram. Check out our website. I'm trying to do more. I keep saying that for like 2 months and I haven't. But most importantly, please like and subscribe to our channel. My name is Ryan Tamori for Eric Malton. We appreciate everybody watching. Have a safe night out.
Our head coach of our Lobo football program, Bronco Mendenhall.
Details themselves with the right preparation can separate you from mediocre competitors that don't do that. And so, yeah, the attention to detail, I think, drives the execution, or should I say brings the execution to life, especially in critical moments.